Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here with us today. This is a skill sharing class. And so the purpose of our skill sharing classes are to learn about each other's callings. And so in learning about a particular person's calling, like Chef Lamas, who we have tonight, we hope to all learn a little bit about our callings as well. And so with that, I'll invite Robin up to introduce Chef Lamas.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to welcome Chef Anthony Lamas to be with us tonight. I've been following Chef Lamas for probably 25 years, as long as he's been here in Louisville. I first discovered this young Latino guy as a food writer when he was working at a little restaurant down on Lower Frankfort Avenue called Pico. And this guy was cooking South American food with amazing touches back in a time when Louisville was still learning Mexican. So he developed a certain amount of local fame, went on from there. He worked at Lily's, he worked at a couple of other local places that we all know. Then in 2000, he started his own restaurant with a partner called Jicama on Bardstown Road. That became very popular over 5 years' time, whereupon the partnership broke up. And he continued starting in 2005 with Ceviche, a Latin restaurant, which has become a complete landmark. It was called Nuevo Latino. I like to say, in fact, I wrote in the 2008 review that Chef Lamas's style incorporates his heritage as a Californian, the heritage of his mother, who was from Mexico, his father, who was from Puerto Rico, and his own individual creative style that turns to farm to table, sustainable seafood. He has become so popular, so well known that he's been invited to the James Beard House in New York repeatedly, been nominated as a James Beard Top Chef Southeast 3 times, been featured on food TV so often that you've probably seen it. Nothing more to add. Welcome, Chef Lamas.
But
You mentioned the James Beard Foundation nomination 3 times. 2 of them I was a little bit responsible for as a judge.
I think 3 times. So that's my 4th.
I'm not in that vote.
Okay. So it was 3 times and then that 4th time, which was kind of surprising. It's 10 years later, but we love to be recognized. But so I moved from California. Like Robin said, I started kind of doing the food that I knew and just giving it my own twist. I trained in San Diego. At the time when I came to Louisville, it was kind of like being a big fish in a small pond because no one was really doing that. Nobody really was doing ceviches, except for a few Mexican places. Nobody was doing empanadas. Nobody was doing chimichurri. Now you got some Cuban places now and other Latin, but at the time there was nothing there. It was like I'm trying to think of if there was any Latin at all. I want to say the little burrito place on Frankfurt Avenue, El Mundo. I think they were kind of there, and then Mayan Cafe. He was doing more of that. I kind of brought in some of my California influence, but really inspired by all of Latin America. And that's kind of what I do. We used to call ourselves Ceviche, a Latin restaurant. We got rid of that because really we're more than that. I've evolved into being a restaurant in Kentucky. So what does that mean? I kind of like to describe, say, my food is sourced, my food is inspired by heritage, but sourced by locality. So you're going to see a lot of things from the South in this region. Country ham, grits, lots of Kentucky flavors, or I should say regional flavors, whether it's CLN red peas, Carolina gold rice, working with wild ramps, and all these things that I discovered. Pawpaws, we make a flan with pawpaws, something that I learned. So really, it's kind of inspired really through my travels, through my heritage. You'll see some California kind of influence in there, which was kind of at the time dubbed Pacific Rim cuisine, meaning that kind of Asian. And when they started calling us Nuevo Latino was, Pacific Rim was to those Pacific Asian flavors, Nuevo Latino was to Latin flavors, more than I say beans, rice, and tacos. I like all that stuff, but a little bit more started introducing Latin flavors, and a lot of people didn't really know. So my training with Pacific Rim, as I started getting more into Peruvian and traveling and trying different South American cuisines, I realized there was a cuisine called Chifa cuisine. And that is where the Chinese came across the Pacific. First place they landed was Peru. And they started creating these chalpas, which are like stir-fried rice. They brought woks. They brought sashimi style cuts of fish. Peruvians call it tiratito, it means to throw. It's like throwing cards on a plate. So it was this really melting pot of kind of Asian and Latin called Chifa cuisine. And when I started researching that, I was like, wow, I've been doing Chifa cuisine for 20 years. I just didn't know there was a name for it. It was just because of my training and then my heritage, the mix of it. So I've always used a little bit of sesame and soy and those kind of flavors as well. But that was my training in California. But yes, here I am. We're going 23 years now in that building. So thank you, Louisville. I always stay grateful for that. I love that we're a part. You know, you have like Jack Fry's and restaurants that have been here, and then you have ceviche. Who would have thought a restaurant named Ceviche would be so popular and stay in Louisville or be a landmark? So we're grateful for that. A question I always get is ceviche, why the S spelling? Well, there's 3 spellings. Most commonly, the C. Whenever I write ceviche, it's always with a C, C-E-V-I-C-H-E. If I say on a menu and print it, it's always with the C. But on our menu, you'll see all 3 spellings. You'll see the C, but in Ecuador and Peru, they spell it instead of a B, they put a B there. It's called ceviche, both correct. And then in Brazil and Chile, it's spelled with an S. So all 3 are correct, just depending on what part of Latin America. Also, ceviche changes, whether they always have some type of crunchy texture, different vegetables they use. If you're in Peru, you're going to see popcorn sometimes, or cancha, which is like toasted corn. You're going to see it served with sweet potato to kind of cool the palate, and leche de tigre, as they call it, tiger's milk. If you're in Chile, you're going to see it with grapefruit. And if you're in California, you're probably going to see more of a Mexican with avocado, cucumber, things like that. So depending on what part of Latin America, the ceviche changes. Ecuador, they like to use ketchup as a base. They give that little sweetness and make this tomato-y. So they take lime, they take a couple scoops of ketchup, and then they char vegetables, chill them, and then add that in. So you kind of add that char flavor. So at my restaurant, we do all kinds of different ones. We're kind of influenced by all of it. Traditionally, it's taken seafood like fresh fish, marinated in lime, and then the citric acid cooks it. But with shellfish, we actually blanch it. So I'm going to kind of jump right into that. Over here, I have so with lobster, crab, you actually want to cook it, steam it. Otherwise, yeah, you could. If you're right near the ocean and you get fresh shrimp right out of the water, you can slice it really thin, put your lime over it, and that. The problem is when you do kind of shrimp, chunks of it, is it'll get chewy on the outside, and then the inside still rare. Nobody really likes rare shellfish. I don't like raw shrimp. So what we do is kind of like you would do a shrimp cocktail. We take some lemon zest, we take onions, celery, mirepoix, carrots, onions, create this courtbouillon, salted water. We'll bring this to a boil, we blanch our shrimp, take it out till it's just about tender, and then shock it in ice water. And then that stops the cooking. So this is kind of a quick ceviche, and a lot of times people don't realize how simple ceviche can be with shellfish. Now, fresh fish, like I said, not frozen. You got to get fresh. Slice it thin, let it marinate, let it sit for an hour or so. Or really, now people love sushi. You can just toss it. So in this case, I've blanched my shrimp. So it's this simple. I have my blanched shrimp, kind of like you would do shrimp cocktail. I have a little bit of ginger in here. I'm going to add this ginger. Just going to fill this. I like a little bit of the ginger flavor in there. So the first thing you do is, and you kind of want to, with ceviche, you want to add the lime and everything, but you want to add all your other components later because the citrus will start to cook it. I got to take this one off the cut because it'll just get stuck. I'm just doing some thin slices here of ginger. I like the fresh ginger flavor. It almost, to me, has, like fresh lemongrass or something like that. So I'm just going to do I did some slices and now I'm just julienning. So with ginger, it's fibrous. You don't want to just throw it in the blender. You still need to chop it, even if you were to put it in a blender or something like that. So right here, I'm just going to do a nice, real fine slice. Oh, shit. I'm just kidding. Oh, shoot. Everybody kind of saw. This is, I get my knives. I like the Japanese knives because of the style of the metal they use. We always used like Hinkle or Woodstock when I started training back in the 80s. The Japanese started really making knives, and they're the metal, and they're just really easy to sharpen. So there's a place called Korin, Korin. You can go to korin.com. They're out of New York, and they just have amazing knives, and they last forever, and they have some for the home. So I really like the Japanese knives. Okay. So we're gonna get some lime here. Lime is the star with ceviche. Now you can add other fruits, mangoes. You can add some lemon zest and lemon, but lime has the most citric acid. It's gonna really give it that bright flavor. So I'm just gonna go right in here with the citrus. Okay. This. There. That's why Latinos don't play basketball. We just play soccer and baseball. So lime right in here. I'm just gonna add that lime to get all in there. All right. Fresh lime is the star. Get that bright flavor. Now earlier I took some lime and I took a little toasted cumin and some coriander, and I started this broth. Okay, just so that would sit, because I knew this was going to be quick. And you really wanted to sit for a couple hours, just kind of bring up the flavors. But you see there, I have a lot of lime kind of going in there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go back in here because this is what we're going to top it with. This is kind of pungent. So when you make a ceviche broth, you want it to be pungent. You want that salt to be right there. You want that spice to be right there, because by the time you add everything in there and all the vegetables, it starts to release its natural juices, and that's going to create the perfect balance. So when you try it, you're like, ooh, that's why they kind of call it in Peru tiger's milk, leche de tigre, because it kind of gets you. They actually will eat their ceviche. They say Sunday morning, if you had a little too much wine or something, they'll have ceviche, and they'll eat it, and then they shoot the rest of the broth, and it kind of just wakes them up. Makes me sweat all the impurities out. Right? Yes. That's what they say. So, as I said, I have this kind of leche de tigre, or you can call it, I just went blank, but, basically ceviche broth. What I'm going blank, Robin? The agua, the little seafood, why am I going blank? Well, anyway, ceviche broth. So, basically pungent. Now I'm going to add the ginger right in here. Okay. I want some of that fresh ginger, just kind of give it another layer of flavors. Then I have some different components. I made a fresh pico de gallo. The fresh pico de gallo is basically a raw salsa of fresh tomatoes, jalapeno, onion, lime juice, cilantro. That's your classic pico de gallo. Salsa. Salsas can be roasted, cooked, raw, many forms of different types of salsas. And then I have some cucumber, I have some radishes, I have a little red onion, and some jalapenos. Right? These just add some components to it. I'm gonna slice these onions or these jalapenos real thin. It's kind of be on there. Jalapenos, sometimes they can be spicy, but usually not. On a scale of 1 to 10, I like to say a jalapeno is like a 4 or 5. A serrano chili would be a 6 or a 7. A habanero is going to be, 9 or a 10 up there, Scotch bonnet and all those type of spicy chilies. So I love the fresh flavor of it. If you want a little more spice, then you can use serrano chilies. And then when you smoke a jalapeno and marinate it with a little oil and garlic and some onion, it becomes a chipotle chili. That's that smoky, it looks kind of red because it's been sitting in there. So a chipotle chili, which is one of my favorite, smoky, is just a smoked jalapeno marinated. So you'll see in the can, it'll say chipotle and adobo. Adobo is marinade, onions, garlic, olive oil, and smoked jalapenos. Yeah. So a different thing. So I have in here my shrimp, right? So I've seasoned this. You always want to season as you go. Season, I always talk about seasoning layers of flavor. You're making a soup, you're cooking it. As the things start to kind of release its flavors, you got to check it again. Soup's always better the next day because it's had time to sit, beef stew, and you can always readjust. So I'm gonna do a generous amount of salt because I know I have all that citrus. Vinegar and high acid is going to take a little more salt to balance it out. So this is how simple this is. You can have all this cut ahead when your guests get here. You can plate and do everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this together real quick. Everybody will grab their own bowl, cafeteria style. You're going to go out. I'll come out and chat, or if you want to ask questions, then we can talk. Then we'll come back in for the next course. And then after that next course, you'll be able to sit, because then I'll just bring the dessert out and talk about that out there. Okay, but the next course, we kind of go with that. So it's simple as this. Oh, I have a vegetarian too. That's right. Where's the vegetarian? No vegetarian? Right here. Beautiful.
I like shrimp. I'm a pescatarian.
You're a pescatarian. Well, I'm glad that I brought enough shrimp then. I brought a little extra.
We give theirs
You know what? Let's see. Oh, okay. I was almost going to say that there was a little bit left for Robin, but,
No, I don't even eat.
oh, you don't? Okay. So, so I have this citrus here. I'm not going to waste that. That's all there. That's kind of what the leche de tigre would be. So I'm actually going to put all that beautiful lime in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to taste it there. And let's see. Yeah, I have. I should have. Okay.
Oh, it's in there. Big spoon is right in front of you.
Right in the drawer.
Oh, good. What's that?
Drawer.
Oh, is there? Okay. Trying to see where I am. So it's pungent. Good. I like this though. I do love citrus. Oh. I'm gonna put a little more salt. Put all the vegetables and everything. Okay. So I got some different components here. So what I'm going to do is, now that you have this, I'm going to drop right over it. Okay. Just like this. Let's just kind of sit on there, and the nice thing about having a bowl is you can kind of pick it up and drink it. Encourage that as you're eating it. I do like sometimes eating ceviche with a spoon for that reason, to get all of it. You know, a lot of people will serve it with fork, things like that, and cut it up. All right. Oh, damn, we got lots more. All that beautiful broth.
What was the original broth? I think you mentioned it.
Leche de tigre is kind of the Peruvian, and really like lime is going to be your star. Which you can do, you know, certainly adding orange. We do watermelon with tuna. We have some real nice tuna. Seasonal, yeah, just adding mangoes. So much, we get creative. Okay, next, we're gonna do some cucumber right over the top. what I love about ceviche is all the textures. Besides all the bright flavors, it's so refreshing. And, on a hot day like this, this is, some of the best time to have it. It's refreshing. I just think hot day, there's really nothing better. Sushi craze has been the big thing, and ceviche is kind of that answer to that. All right, here, I'm just going to do it all. We're going to make sure that you get plenty. Okay, Pico de Gallo. Even though I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes, they're a little sweeter. So this, I like to describe a shrimp, a ceviche, is kind of like a seafood salsa, so to speak. It's a good way of also kind of describing it. All right. So you have all these flavors kind of coming together, flavor and everything. Look at that. All right. It's kind of coming together. You see it. Now we're going to do a few radishes. Okay. I like a little the spiciness of a radish. Radish, I think a lot of people don't really know what to do with a radish. Or like, I'm not sure I like radishes. I've had them on salads. But they really add a little bite to ceviche, I think. So, I'll throw a few on there. These are from Farmer Fred. Get some stuff with. So the farmers are starting to bring things in. So it's always a fun time in Kentucky. Soon the tomatoes. We actually made our first batch of Gazpacho today because we got some early tomatoes in. So we call it early tomatoes Gazpacho. Okay, so we have that. Now, once again, layering flavors, right? I knew that I had the pico and the cucumber, but what I want to do is I want to add a little something to this as well. Okay. You know what? Olive oil. I think it was right back here. Yeah. Here, I'll grab it. I see it right here.
Front left of the box.
I have the pico de gallo anyway, so we're good. So just add a little bit of salt. Sometimes I'll do, oh yeah, here we go. I won't even use half this lemon. So what I want to do is just toss this with a little salt and lemon. Actually, this is one of my favorite ways my little 13-year-old and I will eat cherry tomatoes. Salt, lemon, or even a little red wine vinegar. It's one of my favorite little things. They're so sweet, right? So, it's almost like a salad. Wow. Different ways. I'm just trying to, I love all these little varieties. It's going to be very refreshing. You see everything kind of layered with flavors. I'll toss some things and oil and, all right. You like jalapenos, or just throw one because there is some on there. So if you don't like too much, you can kind of put it aside. There is some little spice, but not overbearing. You have a little spice, but you don't want the jalapeno, you can move it aside. Like I said, the pico has a little bit. Okay, and then always a little red onion. To me, red onion just really adds that extra little bite that I think a ceviche needs. Always in Caribbean, always like a good amount, really thinly shaved, sweet potato, the broth. I just love the, could you use white onion? You can, but I just love the sweetness of the red. To me, I think the red onion and definitely in Peru, that's all you'll ever see is when you use the red onion. Whenever I make my pico de gallo, I always use red onion. I've seen people do it with Spanish onion. I just love the sweetness of the red. All right. So as you got there, we have this right in there. I mean, look at how you see how simple that was. It was just having some ingredients, cut a quick ceviche by adding the citrus afterwards. And when you get it all in there, it's going to come together. And then last but not least, what I love about ceviche is you always have something crunchy with it, whether it's popcorn. If you're in Ecuador, they're going to do like toasted corn, almost looks like corn nuts. You'll see in this case, here, it's going to look like a little whole tostada. It's right on there. We're just going to go like that then, because you're going to have to carry it. So, but you can kind of break this up. Sometimes I like to just break it up and put it over the top and eat it all together, or you can just kind of break a chip and kind of pick it up like a salsa. When you pick these up, maybe hold on to your chip. It doesn't go flying. Okay. And there we have it, shrimp ceviche with cherry tomatoes, radish, cucumber, and like a little leche de tigre.
Yeah.
All right, very simple. All right, we'll take that out, and then see, so that's gonna do that.
Interesting. Excuse me.
Happy to say a blessing. Loving God, thank you for this food and the hands that prepared it. Help us to be aware of the many callings in our lives always, and to be inspired by those that we hear. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Say a blessing. I was very
Yeah.
Okay. You know, Langsford, the center, they recommend it.
All the other.
I mean, it's one of the reasons.
Large. Basically.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
How is it so far? Did you get that bite right? Little bite? Yeah, good. It's good on a hot day like this.
So my friend Amy posted a question on Zoom.
Sure.
She said she looked it up on Google. She thinks that today because I mean milk of the tigress. I sort of see her point. I don't
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
previous to that, since guys don't give them.
Yeah, I mean, it
I
is.
told him,
Tiger
I
is,
told him
yeah.
about.
No, it is. Tiger's milk, but tiger is the tiger. Yeah. Yeah. So you're right.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I never gave a better answer.
Oh, sure. I can even sit right here. I'll
Oh,
sit
yeah,
down
this is
for
for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And of course, if there's any questions,
Yeah, so when
Feel
we get
free.
started, one question we like to ask in our skill sharing classes is just to tell the story of how you became a chef. So how you got to this calling.
yeah, good question. So my calling, I think, when I was younger, my grandfather and uncle had a restaurant, and I was in junior high, and my parents we lived in Central Valley, California, in the Sequoias. We moved up out there about when I was about 10 years old. I was born in Torrance, LA area. We were there, and we used to do vacation and go to the lakes and skiing up in Central Valley. We fell in love with it, so we moved up there and had some land. But my bus ride was like an hour bus ride to go back into town in Porterville. I lived way out in the hills. Our closest neighbor was like 3 miles away. It took me a while to get used to it, but then I loved it because I had nature's back playground. So my uncle had a restaurant, and it was on the way to the lake. So on the way home from my bus ride, instead of riding a bus for an hour, I could ride it for half an hour and get dropped off at my uncle's restaurant. So I would get dropped off there. I had a cousin that was about 4 years younger than me, so I could hang out with him. But while I was there, I helped out and just kind of started to learn a little bit, wash dishes. In fact, in my restaurant, it's a picture of my cousin and I when I was about 11 years old. I have it in my hallway there of me in an apron washing dishes. Never thought that this is what I was going to do. Never heard the word culinary, never heard the word chef. Just a family style restaurant. But I started to learn how to use a knife and my way around the kitchen. So it was kind of a trade for me at first. It wasn't until I graduated high school, I was kind of trying to find myself. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I didn't, go right to college. I was still confused and trying to find my way. So I had an aunt that lived in San Diego, and she was single, and I used to go visit, and I loved the beach. So she said, "Why don't you come out here for a while, just to come out and get away from there, and just try to see, what you think." So I did, and there was a new resort opening up in Coronado, California, called Lowe's Coronado Bay Resort. At the time, I was hired about 3 months before it opened. That is where I met my mentor, Chef Jeff Tunks. He was the first one that showed me food. He had a passion for it. I saw it in a refined way. He was doing these Pacific Rim flavors, and I was inspired, and so I would start taking my mama's kind of flavors and then reinventing them and kind of showing these dishes in a more refined way. But that was really where it hit me, where I played the drums. I loved music. I loved the art field. It was there that I saw food to be an art, and that you used your creative mind. My brain definitely has a stronger creative side than the other side. So once I saw that you use your creative mind, that's when I thought, okay, this is what I want to do, because I really like to create things, and I saw it as art. So it went from a trade to an art, and that's where it kind of happened for me. And one of the things that I loved is, bringing people together. There's very few times that a bunch of people can get together, but one of the times is getting together for a meal, sharing stories, spending time together. To this day, I have an 18-year-old and a 13-year-old. My days off are usually a Sunday and a Monday sometimes, and sometimes just a Sunday. But it's always one of those days we sit down at the dinner table like we used to with my mom. We did it every day, but kind of hard in the world we live in today and people working. But every Sunday, we make sure that we sit down as a family. And it just gives us time to kind of reflect on our week and spend time together. That was one of the things. There was not too many industries that gave you that instant feedback or instant gratification, and cooking for someone does. Sometimes you have to learn. Not everything works out, so sometimes you get that constructive criticism. but it was, I can go to my restaurant and walk around and see a smile on someone, and there's something about making people happy through food that is something that I enjoy. So that was kind of the calling. It was just that I saw it go from a trade. Ironically, though, like I said, I grew up in the business or around my uncle's restaurant. I need to back up a little bit. While I was in the Central Valley, I got involved with FFA, Future Farmers of America. Another thing that came to play a big part in my cooking, how I source my ingredients. I learned about farming way before I even knew what a chef was. In fact, before I moved to San Diego, I thought about going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for agricultural science. I was an FFA for 6 years. I raised steers, I raised lamb. I still drive an old vintage Volkswagen. I have a 1952 Beetle. I have a 53 bus, a 69. Bought my very first car. I sold a steer at the Porterville Fair. I made $300 profit. I saw this little Volkswagen down the street. I approached the lady. She said, my husband passed away. It's been sitting here. I said, I have $300. She goes, give me 200, keep the 100 and do whatever you want. Jumped in it, started it up, drove away, started. $300, 1985. So I bought my first car by being part of FFA and learning to raise livestock, and it was a business. So that later played a big role in how I source ingredients. I'm very particular. All our seafood is American or Canadian, clean farm, not farm, but wild caught fish, tuna. Try to use just the best ingredients and also humanely raised and properly. And I think that if you think 30 years ago, it was all about Europe. It was the Italians and the French, and they were all into food, and Americans were still kind of, but in the last 10 years, it's exploded where people are more in touch with where their food comes from. You see farmers markets everywhere now. You see people building their kitchens and redesigning their kitchens. More people are cooking. They kind of started, and it's exciting. As a chef, you see people are more into food than ever and more knowledgeable. So that plays a big part. We might be a couple more dollars expensive than maybe some other places. It's because we're sourcing these really beautiful ingredients. And like the next course, the scallop I'm going to do for you is just a beautiful scallop, and you're going to see a lot of scallops get a bad rap because they're kind of soaked in sulfites, and they really should be this beautiful, right, shucked out of the shell, steaky. And when you see the scallop that I'm going to serve, even the people that don't think they like scallops, when they have a fresh scallop like this, they're amazed. Kind of sweet and wonderful. Everybody good with the scallop? Even the pescatarian?
I can scallops or mussels or clams.
Okay. Shrimp is fine, but no scallop. Okay. So the pescatarian is good with scallop. So then you'll get the vegetarian version. Perfect. That works out. Any questions or anything about that? I met a Kentucky girl while I was in San Diego. Her father was in the military. He was a surgeon in the military. San Diego has the Navy ships there. And that's how I ended up. And then I came to visit. So Jeff Tunks was my mentor I was talking about at Lowe's. I told him I'm thinking about moving to Louisville. I just feel like going. And this girl that I met, she wants to go back home. I'm young. I'm just kind of adventurous. And he said, well, I just read an article about Louisville, and there's this lady, Kathy Carey, who is doing some good stuff, and she got a James Beard nomination. I said, oh, okay, I'm going to go eat at this restaurant. So I did some research. I came down for a week. I applied at Lily's. I applied at Dietrich's back in the day. I applied at, I think it was called something Luma, Alta, Alta Luma. Well, anyways, I applied at the English Grill. By the time I left to go back home, I had offers from all places. So I was like, oh gosh, this is pretty awesome. Well, what am I going to do? I got offers at all of them. So I went back and told Jeff, and he's like, Kathy seems to be leading there, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff. Maybe you should go there, and that way you can learn. So it was I was hired as a sous chef. my first job was at Lily's. I learned about all the farmers, whether it's Nancy Newsom's country ham, whether it's Julie Shadd's goat cheese in Indiana. She even some of the guys in the kitchen gave me this. They call it Kentucky brown water bourbon. Gave me some of that. Tried that. I was trying all this Kentucky stuff, and I got introduced to Kentucky really quick. So yeah, it was a great start because she really was kind of that farm table, and I think she was way ahead. So it was cool. And as I was working there, I started to do. She let me do a lot of specials because she saw I was bringing something. So it kind of built my confidence, and that they were getting reviews, or feedback in the dining room. So that's kind of what gave me my confidence. Like, okay, I could do this. And so I ended up being the chef at Timothy's for a few years. And then Picasso is really where I just had, when you work for someone else, if you feel like an artist with just one hand, maybe you can only do so much because you're influencing the restaurant. Picasso was this couple that got together and they just gave me full reins. They just said, do it. We just want a little place, and they loved my food. So that was really where I started to kind of introduce Anthony Lamas food, so to speak. There's a lot of dishes on my menu today that were from that restaurant. Chicken empanadas. What else was on there? Some of the ceviches, mahi tacos, a few things that from day one that people just loved and I can't change. So Robin Gar, I didn't even know about this, gave me my first review, and he gave me a glowing review. I didn't know this, but my sister Irene from California was looking something online and saw Hot Bites review, and she said, she did say this, quote unquote, she goes, there's some lady, Robin, wrote a review on you. And I was like, I said, who's Robin? I looked up and I was like, oh, that's a a guy. This is a food critic. It's a man. Blah blah blah. So I didn't even know him, but you gave me my first review, and I've told you this before, and I was ecstatic. The first time there was a picture of me, and actually the picture they used was me and my son, who was like 1 year old. So that was where, like, the first time. Well, back up. When I worked for Jeff Tonks, he was getting all these reviews, and I would save all the newspaper and magazine clippings, and I go show my mom and them, look at this, I'm working for this guy. And that was the first time I had my own, so my sister and my mom, they were all excited, and then just kind of went from there. And then he followed me at Baxter Station with Papa's, and always been great. And we actually got the highest rating ever in Kentucky at Ceviche. A few years, we got a 99 out of 100. So it's pretty remarkable. Always been grateful that we've been able to stay consistent. I think in a restaurant, the hardest thing to achieve is being consistent day in and day out. When you go to have that dish, it needs to be the same every time. And I'm really, really good about that. Now, I've calmed down in my older age, but I could be a little bit of a demanding chef. I like to say it's kind of like a coach. Sometimes you raise your voice a little bit to, like, why didn't you catch the ball? You do this all the time. And and there were people that came through my kitchen that they just didn't work out. So they you start to get talk, this and that, and it just happens. But as you get older, you learn to manage people better and things like that. So I've come a long way. Sometimes people that have been with me, I have a few servers that have been with me the whole time, 22 years. Okay, a few of them 10, some 15. Some of my cooks, it's crazy. A lot of cooks came through, and sometimes they're like, "What happened to you?" Like, because of my patience, They're like, I just can't believe this side of Anthony, I guess that just part of maturity and coming to peace with myself too. Because sometimes I could be my hardest critic, and I just had to learn to enjoy the moment, because I was so you can get caught up. It's a high stress business. A lot of people don't know that. And it's easy to back in the day, it was like all the like the West Side Story, all the greasers or all the bad boys were in kitchens. That's how they said they kind of started off. This is where you can go, and tattoos and this and that, pack of cigarettes rolled in your sleeve and cooking, and it's turned into a little bit more than that food now. But back in the day, it wasn't, parents didn't want you to go work in a restaurant. They just said, like, what? So the industry's changed definitely. I have more women in my kitchen than I do men, and I love that. I'm a big brother of 3 sisters. We're very respectful. Our language is always proper, and I think it just kind of keeps us all grounded. And so it's a nice little mix of people, and keep a very, very clean kitchen. And it takes a whole team. I always say I'm just as good. I'm only as good as my team. Chef is only as good as his team. So they're the ones every day and day out. While I'm here right now, they're there. We're open 7 days a week. So forever I didn't want to be away. I had to learn to trust. And once I started to learn to trust and give people responsibility, they took pride in it. Like, he trusts me. And I saw that, but it took a long time for that. I've only been doing that probably the last 8, 9 years. So yeah. That's a little start on that. Well, we'll go back and sear a scallop and talk about scallops, sea scallops. Y'all did well, right? Not over spicy? Enough to kind of wake your palate up? Yeah.
We did not suggest the bottom.
There is a line for the next one. I hear it. All right. Yeah. Right. I know. My wife hates it. She's like, I'm going to start cooking because you make a mess. Because I got stuff all over, and usually I'm at the restaurant and I have all these people. All right, let's kick on the hood system.
Quick question.
Yes.
For the different vegetables that you mixed in there.
Yes.
Did you put anything in there for those fresh vegetables? Or
Yeah.
Anything you put on there?
So cucumbers, but you can do celery. You can do.
And they were just plain. They didn't have anything.
No, just the little cherry tomatoes I tossed a little liquid salt.
Okay.
So I had red onion, I had cucumber, I had radishes, the Pico de Gallo. But bell peppers are beautiful, olives, citrus, oranges, so much. It's kind of what you like. And with shellfish, it's really everything kind of goes with it. Grab a mango, throw it in there. Probably wouldn't put a banana in ceviche, but you know what I'm saying. If it means, I've done peaches. I'll char peaches, let them chill, and add this little peach. It's wonderful tuna. So really, it allows everybody to be creative. There's no restrictions on ceviche, really, because everybody kind of does different. Like I said, in Ecuador, they'll grill their vegetables. They'll grill bell peppers, they'll grill onions, chilies, then let those chill, cut them. Now you got this char flavor that's mixed into there. So adding different layers of flavor, smoky components, char components, citrus. I do add a little olive oil for a little bit of fat. That helps balance it, because sometimes it can be too citrus. I mean, it's always going to be citrusy, but the salt is going to help, and then a little bit of oil. Traditionally, they don't do that. It's something that I learned, that I add a little bit to the mouthfeel. That's a little bit. All right. Is the hood system on? It is. All right. Maybe?
There it is.
Oh, there. Oh, I hear it now. Okay. So we just started getting peas in. So I have some spring peas. What I did is I shucked them all and then just did a quick blanch, some salted water, so fresh peas that I did. I have some Carolina gold rice, my favorite rice. It's from the Carolinas, from Sea Island. It's an heirloom variety. It reminds me of jasmine or basmati rice, kind of that nutty floral, called Carolina Gold. I'm in love with it. Yeah, so we're going to add a little lemon and butter to that. Get that warm. So I have a smoky pan going here. That's what you want to see when you're searing fish. or something. Actually, I'm gonna turn this off. That's gonna be for the TV. So when you sear something, what they mean by smoky pan is a smoky pan, right? So it starts to smoke. Kind of like this here. Okay. Little canola, because it'll hold the temperature better. You don't really want to cook in olive oil because it'll give it a burn flavor and it doesn't hold the heat. So canola oil is always going to be big. Rapeseed oil, something that holds a high temp. Otherwise, it'll kind of. So let's see here. Gloves right here. Okay. So beautiful sea scallops. They have this little like muscle on the side that we cleaned them. But you can see there's no juice in there. These are dry packed scallops. So pick them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these guys out. Beautiful little scallop. I think scallops get a bad rap sometimes because you can't really buy a nice scallop at the grocery store. They're always going to be frozen or some type of. Rarely are you going to see wild caught dry scallops. Sometimes you can check at some of your places or talk to your. So have this little seasoning mix. You're going to have some white pepper. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on each one. A little pepperiness to the. And I'll use some of the seasoning in the rice as well with some citrus. Okay, so we're just kind of seasoning a little bit. Also going to do a little bit of salt. Okay. Turn this back on. You don't want a crowd pan, but I think I'm going to be okay with this. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So if you want extra, so maybe you can have one. No, you don't do scallops either? Ah. You like my skirt steak, you do that and other not a lot of seafood. I got you. Ah. You have lost some weight, but I never thought of you as overweight. A little bit of ground oregano, white pepper. That's it. Salt. No salt. Yeah. All right. I always take my glasses off. I can't see with them, but if I cook with them, they get right. So I see a smoky pan. What you want to do is when you do this, don't move it. Leave it. Don't shake your pan around. Anything. Salmon. Let it just sit there and push down. Okay. Beautiful scallop. Now, trying to get a nice sear on a scallop that's been frozen or soaked in sulfites, you're not going to get it. Okay, just so you know you're working with a fresh scallop. All right, so we have that. Yeah, you see the whole pan. That's what I love about campfires. You can just do start to finish in that thing. Okay, so when those are searing, I'm gonna flavor a little butter. So I have some lemon juice. Okay. Started some zest. I put a little zest in there earlier from that lemon as well. I do a pinch of salt. Okay. I do a little bit of this as well. Basically, I'm just making kind of a compound butter, a flavored butter. Let me check these guys real quick. Oh, very nice here. The great thing about, see that right there? That's what you're looking for. A beautiful sear. You wouldn't get that with another. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. I'm going to flip all these things. Look at those beautiful sears. That's what a dry packed scallop will do for you. You'll get that sear. And I didn't move it. This is what you want to do with fish. Soaking pan. Once you got it, turn it off. Look at that. And that's a beautiful sear right there. Right? See that golden? And what that's going to do is lock that flavor in, creates that little crust. And that's just what makes a beautiful, beautiful scallop there. So I'm just going to let those sit. I don't even need this. We're going to baste this bad boy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this butter. I like compound butters, but this one is just going to be the base. Okay, a lot of times I'll soften butter. You don't want to break it. You just want to soften it. And then what you do is, for steak, say, I'll add chopped up rosemary, a pinch of garlic, and some blue cheese. Then I'll lay it down in plastic wrap, make a log, roll it up, put it back in the fridge. Then you cut these little slices right on top of a ribeye. You can do so many different ones. Roasted pepper or roasted tomato horseradish, flavored compound butters. We're going to talk about a couple butters because I also got a beurre blanc that I made. It's like a lemon habanero, but very little, just enough to kind of do that, give that little bite. So we have a compound butter that we're going to baste these scallops with. But while I have that there, we'll do this. So turn that one back on for. So we're going to baste them, but I'm going to let this sit. I know they're okay right there now. All right. So simple. My seasoning, some butter that's just semi-salt, just kind of lemon zest, lemon juice, a little salt. Okay. Now you can roll this into a log and then just take a piece off when you want. Basically, I just incorporated this. I could roll it into wax paper, make a log, put it in your freezer, and you always have compound butters. You can make several different ones and just have them in your fridge. When you need them out, put them in your fridge or put them in your freezer, pull them out, take a slice off, flavor something. Different ones, orange and tarragon, sage and whatever. Chilies, roasted peppers, citruses. Great way to kind of incorporate flavors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a little bit of butter. Not a lot of butter, but just a little bit. Okay. And the Carolina Go rice is going to go right in here. Okay. Okay. So I have my thank you right here. So we're going to do this. A little salt on that. This is going to be. All right, it's going to be our little shellfish. I have my butter in here. I just kind of have it on a medium heat because if you got it too hot, your rice, your pasta, or whatever will stick to the bottom. So this allows me to just control it like this. By a low heat, I can warm it up. Stick. Wash these palms off real quick. All right, so my rice is getting warm. And what I'm going to do is you know what I need? I need to get my plates organized here. Yes, those are on. Robin, can you help me grab some plates? We'll do the bigger ones, or anybody need 12 of those. We can lay those up all right there. Now some plate over there. All right, so we have our zucchini that I just seared here a little bit. All right, I'm going to turn it off so I know that. Color on that as well. Okay. Rice spice here. I'm gonna go with my peas right in there. Okay. So I flavored my butter, but I'm also gonna make sure my rice is salted and my peas, right? That's always important. All right. I got that on low. So, going into the oven. So, I'm Latino, and we call this Latino wine, water. A little water to be glazed. All right. Slowly, just kind of getting all that butter and flavor in there. All right, then I'm going to do more of this butter here. Oops. This is why my wife says she's going to start cooking, because when I cook, she has to clean up. Used to being in my kitchen, right? All right, I just want to make sure I keep these spoons separate, not touch her zucchini with shellfish. So I'm going to pull these all back. See all this butter right here? What I'm going to do here is start basting these. This will cook it through. See what I'm doing here? Taking all that butter there. I'm just basting it. I won't even have to go in the oven because this will take care of. You see how you get all that flavor on there as well? Beautiful. All right, that's my on scallop spoon. Okay. Now I need to taste this. Where's peppery? There. All right. Scallop spoon. Continue to baste these just so they're really, you want these, like medium. They sit, otherwise they'll get tough. So, beurre blanc, two types of butters. The compound butter, which is great to put on steaks or anything, but also to cook with. And then a beurre blanc, one of your mother sauces. Your mother sauces are kind of the foundation of culinary arts. I always remembered it. I just had to think of a girl's name. I used to think, okay, so we learned it by B. B for bechamel, E for Espanol, T for tomato, H for hollandaise, V for veloute. A bechamel, Alfredo cream sauces. That's your bechamel. A roux, thickened cream roux. Espanol, demi-glace, kind of meats and tomatoes and bones. Tomato, marinara, salsas. H, hollandaise, béarnaise, anything with egg yolks, custards under your hollandaise. And then V is a veloute, meaning a clear stock thickened. So say like you use cornstarch to make a slurry, or you can still do roux like in a clear sauce or something. So a veloute is kind of more of a broth. Beurre blanc would be under your bechamel, so to speak, with cream, a little bit of butter. So what I did is I took shallots, peppercorns, lemon zest, habanero, cooked that down with white wine. We had just a cream to stabilize it. Traditionally, you would do them all minute in a French restaurant. You get an order in, you just make this quick butter sauce, pour it over the top. With house apartment and stuff, you have to make sure your sauces are hot. You weren't able to do that with a regular one, so by adding cream, it helps stabilize it, and you can keep it at that temperature. Because they want you to have it at over 140, but it would break otherwise. So this way, this helps stabilize it. So I'm going to use this. There it is. Okay, so my scallops are there, nice warm, I have everything. So what I'm going to do is do our butter. I'm going to do some butter right on there. Okay, nice lemony, rich butter. Got a little bite from the habanero, but it's just used. What we do is we just cut it in half and let it sit in the wine so it just kind of flavors it. I like using habanero for something like that because you just need a little bit to go a long way. So just to get that sneak. Now, if you ate a habanero or chopped it up by itself, it's going to be really spicy. But it's a great chili to just kind of poke a couple holes in with a toothpick, drop it into your sauce, taste your sauce. Once you feel like the spice is there, pull it right out. It's a great way to kind of add a little spice to your life. All right. So, all right. Back to this. All right. Get the smell of this rice. I just love it. It has this kind of like nutty. I don't know if you're getting it. Maybe you go by. It has this. I just know it. Like that's Carolina Gold rice. I love. It's my favorite rice, and I learned. I was introduced to it in Charleston. So Pacific Rim in the 90s, when I moved here, was the big cuisine. Then it went into Nuevo Latino, which just happened to be me, and that's what helped us get some national press. That I started getting here in Louisville. New York Times did a story that said Nuevo Latino is not just a New York thing. That's Chef Anthony Lamas straight to Louisville, Kentucky. It was Miami, Chicago, New York, and they kept saying even Louisville, Kentucky. There's a few of us here, but they would always do that. But it helped me. I was okay with it. But then Southern cuisine has been like the latest trend. And being invited to Charleston Food and Wine Festival, you get introduced and you start trying these things and eating farmers. And that's how I got introduced to Carolina Gold rice. They make Anson Mills grits. I use Weisenberger. Kentucky, but I do like Anson Mill with their Carolina rice, where they come from. It's got the red peas. My mom fell in love with it. She came to a James Beard dinner I did in New York. It's got rice. She's a Latina mother, always beans and rice. Southern share a lot of the same ingredients. That's what I found, that Latin and Southern ingredients have a lot. Tomatoes and tomato pies, and the Southern cuisine has cornbread. We have corn tortillas. We love our rice and beans. They do a lot of different types of beans, red peas, all that. Okay. This is Cleveland, so we're going to do zucchini with your our nice little scallop here. that is going to be beautiful, tender, and sweet, and delicious. Make sure I don't get any drippings on there. I'm just going to simply put it right on there. Beautiful scallops, you know, just with the butter being in there, you're going to see it's really, really tender and delicious. Also, sweet smell too. All right. Anybody want to? Don't be shy. All right. There you go. I'm gonna give you two. It's a growing boy. There we have it. We have a seared tiger scallop, dry packed scallop they call it. We have spring peas or early summer peas, Carolina gold rice, and a lemon habanero beurre blanc. Beurre blanc with butter sauce. But you see that simple. Let's grab your plates and head out dining room. There you are, sir. Oh. Here is our.
Where is it? Yeah. Now, white's traditional Michelle, but this will also be. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We're both, we all love meal films. It's a very great, inexpensive one. You have a preference if you would
I like it all.
have a little.
Make it like.
We know if you think it goes.
I got it's one of Harvard's favorite things. It's just like, okay, like, I got these onions, but I just love it. Yeah.
It's like a, yeah, it's just like a plate. Right. This is a southern. So only other problem thing. About this stuff, I don't expect.
I have like, I've been just retelling. Oh, yeah, exactly. Now you're. I just said she had practice today, but she didn't take away. I was like, oh, yeah. It's right here.
Better ones. Oh, yeah, we got one.
What do you think? So far? Oh, we're still, sorry. Wait.
Yeah.
We haven't been told.
Hand for you.
What is the?
Super La Vie, yeah. It's a not very expensive French wine, but I really like it.
Right. So it's what kind of?
Well, they are usually the mix of grapes common in that area. So for that, Grenache primarily and Syrah maybe, and other stuff. This Grenache Blanc and Viognier probably.
Wonderful.
Golden Valley.
Mm. I'm sorry that you're not home. Congrats. Used to.
You need red wine refill, just raise your hand. Is everybody happy?
Is there anyone that wasn't sure they liked scallops, or are you one of them?
I usually don't like them, but it's delicious.
Right, so you see it's a little more stickier and kind of just sweet. You can see the difference, yeah. Because it can be kind of rubbery and this and that, but it's just nice. Good. Awesome.
They're under rice.
My wife is the same way. She really likes scallops.
Yeah.
She'll do the fresh dried.
No, I felt that asking. Well, no. I couldn't help.
So one of the other questions we like to ask these is how this calling affects other calling. So I heard you talk about your callings that began before chef. So being in the Future Farmers of America, and you talked about being a sibling and a father and a partner, and I heard you talk about being a mentor to people in your kitchen.
Yes.
I wonder how your calling as a chef affects these other callings in your life.
Yeah, so that's a great question. As a chef, we're teaching people, teaching the younger and the next generation. So I realize that when you're a chef, you have lots of different personalities. So managing different people, teaching them. Sometimes I think that they come to me like I'm a psychologist when I need my own psychologist or a counselor, but you learn to adapt with different personalities. Teaching people is something that I love to do, but it also, introducing me to so many other people in different, whether it's a farmer, whether it's a little Amish farmer that comes from somewhere in Kentucky and come to my restaurant, and those relationships that I meet, these people that grow, or the people that bring us our eggs, so I think that it's allowed me to kind of build relationships, and you definitely meet a lot of people. And I think that, for some of the farmers, they work with me and ask me what I want to grow, and they'll do it. So it's allowed me to kind of dictate on certain ingredients, and they appreciate that because it kind of opens up more business for them. So I think, when you definitely in hospitality, working with lots of people, building these relationships, allows me to open other doors, to meeting these people, working with people that source these ingredients for me. I think for a while there, whether it's TV or this and that, they want to say, oh, the chefs are to be rock stars. I always say people growing, people raising these chickens that bring us eggs, they're the ones doing this hard work. I learned that at a very young age, back to being in Central Valley. Another thing that really kind of impacted me was, or made, an impression on me, is I'd be driving down the street and I'd see all these migrant workers out there picking oranges and stuff, parents, and I saw kids that were 10 years old, my age, out there in the hot sun doing it. And I was thinking, wow, they're out in the hot sun, they're working hard. Made me appreciate an ingredient before it even gets to the grocery store or the table. It's so easy to lose touch with that. You go to the grocery store, you just grab these ingredients, all the work that it took to get that here really kind of opened my eyes there. You learn a lot, and you build gratitude, you become humble, and it's done a lot, not just creating food. There's so much more that goes into it, having relationships with lots of people. So, and then allowed me to, like I said, build these relationships with people that grow things specifically for me. And that's been kind of a cool thing to be able to do, and work with farmers, and they say, all right, what are we going to do this year? And so I really enjoy that part.
Sounds like you have a really communal aspect to your job as a restaurateur.
Yeah.
Do you think that starts with being involved with growers from a young age?
I do. It made an impact on me at a young age, knowing that I was there, and then 30 years later, here I am, full circle, like working with these people that were growing things and raising things, and I think they appreciate my experience with it when I talk about it. And I go out there and I see the steers and everything and lamb. It's like, oh, this looks beautiful. And they're like, it's like, it was an FFA. This is where I started, not even knowing to be a chef. It kind of comes back around, So is it God's plan? I think so. My mom and friends, they said, we knew it. We knew you'd be a chef. Some of them said that around that I started saying that I want to be a chef, but I don't really remember that. But I do have a friend, my first love, my first girlfriend, still great friends to this day. She's in California, and she and her mom said, we knew it. You used to say that. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, you used to, you would take top ramen and crack an egg in a pan and chop up some turkey, and then you take the top ramen and toss it all together. You were making, most people just took the broth and ate the ramen, right? I was adding all the vegetables. So I was like, oh, just adding And my Whitney, who was my first love, she says, you know what, Anthony? And this was maybe a month ago. It was her birthday, and I reached out to her. And she says, the other day, all of a sudden, this thought, this flavor came to my mind. And she said, you used to take cucumbers and toss them in something. And I said, yeah, my little boy, when he was 2 years old, he'd say, Daddy, will you make cucumbers with the pink sauce? He called it pink sauce. So it was lemon juice, red wine vinegar, a little salt, and just toss cucumbers. Very simple. But I was doing this in 1983 as a teenager. You know, I think my mom would do it. So I go to my girlfriend's house. I'm like, ooh, you got a cucumber here? And she's like, I crave that. And I'm like, it's so simple. Took you 35 years to reach out. Here's the recipe. Was it that simple? I go, yeah, it was that simple. So, you know, I guess somewhere along there I had mentioned it. But a lot of people think, you know, they say, and you know, I mean, things happen for a reason, and all the experiences in your youth kind of build to maybe. And I mean, you know, sometimes
Well, and you know, we're in the business of talking about callings a lot, and so we find that a lot of times it's other people that point one out to you first.
exactly, right? Oh, I thought it was short. Wait a minute, just hide in there. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that, you know, I look back and I was like, like every experience affects me to this day. Like all these things that I did and experienced is like the perfect way for a chef to be creative, so to speak. You know, all these little things. It's not for everyone, but definitely my story. There was so much to that. When I tell people, you know, and what happened was, you know, I was talking about America and how people are more in touch with ingredients and want to get to know their fishmongers and their farmers and know where they go to the farmer's market. You know, 20 years ago, you didn't have it now. In every small city, they're everywhere. It was, you go to France and see all these outdoor markets and stuff. Well, this big trend came 20 years ago saying farm to table, farm to table. And I felt like that was an abused term a little bit. I just felt like that is what it is. That's how my mom cooked. That's what I knew as a child. So I was like, I was doing farm to table at 15 years old, because I'd go out in our front yard, I'd pick an avocado. We had an avocado tree. I made good money on that too, because besides selling my steer at the fair, everybody had lemonade stands. I had an avocado stand. People would drive by and I'd sell a bag of avocados for $5. 1983, it was pretty good. So I would sell avocados. So we had so many avocados, we couldn't use them quick enough. But I remember, you know, something as simple as my mom carving that cucumber, putting it, chilling it, throwing some red wine vinegar and lemon on it, and it's just the best snack. She'd take an avocado, we take a flour tortilla, just on your open burner, not a electric, you gotta have the gas. Put your tortilla on there, take avocado, scoop it out, put it in there, a little squeeze of lemon. We used to put El Tapatio hot sauce, roll it up, and it was the best snack. My mom was doing avocado toast before it became avocado toast. Did it on toast too. I'm like looking back, and I'm like, all this stuff, we've been doing that. You know, avocado toast is the new trend. Farm to table. I was like, well, you know, so my mom we didn't have a lot of money, so she always cooked with what was around. We did a lot of ground beef. When Hamburger Helper came out, I was like, my mom invented that. She's been doing Hamburger Helper for all my life. I'm not going to buy a Hamburger Helper because I was raised on it. But you can buy the box, add it, you know, so, you know, that's what my mom goes. So, yeah, it's amazing when you know, the journey life takes you on.
I have a nephew who they live in San Francisco, my sister. He went to culinary art school. Now he's 6'6". Now that might be hard to work in the kitchen.
That is a big guy, yeah. But
he didn't stay in the restaurant business, but he now works for the parks of the city of San Francisco. But he just cooks for everybody all the time.
Because he still enjoys it. He loves it. Yeah, there's a lot of people that do it, and I see a lot of people retired and saying, I'm going to go to culinary school just to learn some basics.
No.
You know, people doing it, and it's different cooking at home or cooking at a restaurant. It's, you're having to, in the restaurant, it's like I'm the quarterback of a football team. I need the offensive line to protect me. I need someone to catch the ball. Or it's like an orchestra because everything comes together. It's like the drummer and the bass got to be online. The saute and the grill got to time so these dishes come out. Or a ballet where the servers are coming through and the rush and timing. So, it takes a lot of balancing acts and you see it all come together. I don't do a lot of cooking at home because I'm always around it.
Yeah.
But when I do, it's always simple. I just love to throw my grill on and do some burgers or grilled chicken breasts, very simple. And when I go out to eat, people are like, what, and I'm like, I like a steakhouse. I just want a baked potato, some vegetable, and a steak. Now, if I go to San Francisco or I go to New York, then I'll hit some restaurants to get inspired that are a lot like me. And then I find myself going to restaurants that the type of food that I don't cook.
Right.
So I love good French food because I don't cook that.
Yeah.
I go to Chicago. I love these gnocchi and all these nice homemade Italian. And those are some of the places I crave because it's not what I grew up with and it's not the food I cook. So
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do is eat Latin flavors. So yeah. But yeah.
Anyone in your family interested in cooking with your little children, or are you rubbing this off? Is this rubbing off?
They at home a little bit. I've taught them to do things and how to fry an egg and do things like that. My little one, but I've kind of kept them away. I want them to find their own little thing. If they want to naturally, but I want them to. It is a tough business, and I think TV was good and bad. Sure, it kind of put us in the spotlight, and it created some opportunities for me. And I do a few things, and you get an extra paycheck. But it also painted this picture that it's glamorous and this and that, and it's not. It's not as glamorous as TV makes it to be. It's a very hard, long hours. So it's not for everyone. It's definitely a labor of love, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And it's just like a good GM. And people love it. It's part of their DNA, restaurant business. But you saw a lot of people going to culinary school and then not fulfilling it because they realize it's not.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to culinary school, come out, be on TV, and make, so you're gonna roast 3 cases of peppers, big cases, peel 50 potatoes, and you need to do it in 40 minutes, so but yeah, interesting. So you guys did well. Look at that. I'm impressed. And the non-scallop. I'm sure. Good. And the vegetarian one, where's it worked out? That was you. Good, right? All right. You still got all the flavors. And
So do you order the North Carolina rice?
I do. Yeah. The next day. We buy it by 75-pound bags. And then you keep it in the freezer. That's what keeps it fresh. You just pull it out. Yeah, you keep it in the freezer. It's in like a paper, dark, really like paper bag. And then inside of that is a plastic bag. So it keeps it real fresh. Lock it, close it, and cook. And then we cook it like pasta. You cook it with lots of water. It's not like you can, but this has always been the great way of doing it. So you put lots more water, bay leaves in there, salt, whatever you want to do. Bring it, keep cooking it, checking it till you're about right there. Strain it, rinse it with cold water to shock it, and then we have it and we just warm it up like I had it there. So to service, we go boom into the pan. Sometimes I'll put golden raisins and pine nuts in it to serve it with sea bass and a strawberry basil sauce, or just so many different things you can do. So yeah, and but it's definitely my favorite rice. It makes the best rice pudding too. It has that floral flavor. I make a rice pudding with it. Oh my goodness. I'll sneak in a little bit of that Kentucky brown water, that bourbon, just to give a hint. Yeah, makes good rice pudding. So next what we have is tres leches, a classic Latin cake. Traditionally, it's just a white cake. You take tres leches, 3 milks, whole milk, condensed, evaporated. You can add some vanilla in there. You bake this cake, poke a bunch of holes in it, pour all this tres leches, 3 milks over the top. Let it all soak in, so it's just kind of soft, pudding, almost cake. A lot of times they'll do it with like a little whipped cream. So we do different variations, our classic. And then in this case, chocolate tres leches, we actually use Mexican chocolate. So it's a little bit more, has like spice in it. And I don't know if you've ever had Mexican, and it makes great chocolate milk or hot chocolate. It's got like a little allspice in it and cinnamon in it and a little bit of different spices, and it comes in these blocks. So it's a little different. And you'll see that it adds this little different flavor. So what I'm doing is I have that, it's been soaked already, but I'm also going to add a little bit more right on top. In the restaurant, we top it with ice cream. Our yellow traditional tres leches. We do a macadamia brown butter, so it's like ground up butter pecan. One of my favorites. So we do that on it. And then this one, we do horchata ice cream. I don't know if anybody knows what horchata is. Anybody know horchata? A taco shop. They have that white. It's like rice milk. Just the way the Aztec Indians kind of expanded and could hydrate themselves. So they do it with fruits called agua frescas. And horchata is kind of one of the one they use. So they take rice, they soak it, and it creates this milky kind of water for the starch. So it's looks like milk. They put a little sugar in there, some cinnamon, let that all together, crushed almonds, poured over ice, you strain it. So it looks like milk, but it's water. So you're actually hydrating yourself, but you got this little sweetness. It's called horchata. You make an ice cream out of it. You see that at taco shops a lot. Very classic. All right. So also going to took a little bit of raspberry red wine syrup. Took a little red wine and reduced it down and just for a little sweetness. Your cane sugar, red wine, port wine, you took all the alcohol out and stuff like that. Creates this nice little sweetness of raspberry. Sorry, you're filming it, getting like real coming right up on you.
Real life. We should have
Real life.
3D.
Real deal. All right, so then we're gonna put some raspberries on top. Any more questions? Benjamin?
You kind of already touched on yes.
Good.
You kind of already touched on this, but the
Great.
final question we like to ask is, how do you imagine your calling working for good or wholeness in the world?
Right.
And I can think of lots of ways I would answer that on behalf of you, but I wonder how you would answer.
Definitely, I like to, you're involved with your city. There are always ways that we can help. And less fortunate, whether it's charity dinners, things, I think chefs have been great about that. And it's something that we always believe in, and it's a way to give back because it's people like you that help us stay in business. And when a city embraces you, like Louisville has embraced me, it's natural to give back. So it's a way to give back and making people happy. What were you going to say? That you could think of.
You talked about your relationship with growers going back before the
Yes.
farm to table was so changing the way people think about where their food comes from.
I love it.
I like how you talk about, you seem to really care about the people in your kitchens, and if people have been there for 15, 20 years, that that sounds like work of wholeness in the world.
Yes.
Mentor and support the people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was easy for, it's, I said it was kind of like, it takes a big team, and there were some people that came through my kitchen, and they just it didn't work, it wasn't right. So it's easy to, the chef's demanding or hard, and as Robin knows, it's easy to people talk this, you can always twist stories, but at the end of the day, we're going on 23 years. I have people that have been with me from day one. I think really the wholeness and the great environment speaks for itself, So, when you're successful, there might be someone that, it's just life, right? There's always, so sometimes I don't want to, I try to stay humble, but I'll say, look at the scoreboard, okay? So yeah, sometimes chefs, we have egos too, so, yeah. I've learned to be humble. And great, I've always been great. I think I've always been good about that. All right, here, you don't have to get up this time. We're gonna bring forward. There you go. And we're gonna bring out these chocolate leches. A little bit of raspberry, tres leches.
If you're interested in coffee, we have it over here too, both decaf and caffeinated.
So have you guys ever had a 3-course meal here? Is this a first? I think they looked at me crazy. They said, well, we like you to come in and do a demo. I was like, why don't I just do serve it, do a whole course, and,
You said how many courses actually?
Yeah, I asked. And they're like, oh, well, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, she was. So that's great.
So you'll see it's chocolatey, but not. Sometimes I think chocolate can be overpowering. Kind of like I think mellow with using that Mexican chocolate. At least that's what I think.
Scared away from French ones because they seem to be so hot.
This one, this is on top of the Drake Claymore grave you got in 1970.
I think another calling was that how I ended up here in Louisville. You meet someone, I come all the way across the country, and it was the right time for me. And like I said, it was like being a big fish in a small pond. I was able to do this because there wasn't anybody really doing it. And it just happened to be that way. And I think that helped my career. Louisville, I owe Louisville a lot because they gave me my foundation. They came to see us and kept us in business before the rest of the world or the rest of the country started to recognize, and we started to get national praise. But, it was really, the Kentucky girl. That's so.
Do you think the food scene in Louisville has changed in your time here?
Yes, definitely. Of course, we've gotten recognized, but now we have so many. You have, so many different styles of restaurants, and of course, you have Cuban and different types of Latin, and so, at one time, I was the only one doing chimichurri and skirt steak. People were like, chimi who? Chimi what? Now you see it in a lot of places, and you see even just steakhouses have it now. I got Frubies. You go to like steakhouse and they have chimichurri as a sauce because it's a great steak sauce. You see that a lot. So, it definitely has evolved. All the farmers markets. Don't you do one here?
We no, but we have a couple really close.
Oh, okay.
Fairgrass Christian.
Okay.
It's really close.
You talk about one, or do you go to one, a farmer's market? Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Named after the city, not after us.
I got you.
originally named after a Episcopal church, though.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, it has been, I love being part of the city. All my family's still in California and I go visit and I love it. And there are times that I miss it. I miss the mountains, I miss the Sierra and that country out there. But I like my life here and really, my career started here and continues to to thrive and less traffic and cost of living's a little better. So there are a lot of things. And so Louisville is my home. This is where I want to stay. Now, if I made millions of dollars somehow, I don't know that be possible with a restaurant, but somehow that happened, and maybe I could have a home there as well. But I always go visit mom and everyone's there. But I love Louisville. I do. I really do. And I've officially been here longer, more than half my life now has been in Louisville. Yeah. So I'll be 54 this year. Yeah.
So what do you think the next push is gonna be with food? Like, so when you came here, nobody was doing what you were doing.
Yeah.
So like, what's the next thing gonna be?
That's a good question. So Southern is ending. I'm seeing a lot of like Mediterranean where people are doing that Greek, but really showing more of it, where they're making their homemade pita and things. I'm seeing a lot of that Mediterranean kind of influence. I think Korean, barbecue and Korean was kind of there, but it was there in LA back in the Pacific Rim. So it's not really like I think a lot of people were thinking. I just think you saw them using it more and things. But I feel like Mediterranean maybe might be,
And the whole fun tea, like that's all, there is some of that influence of
yes.
Korean,
Whether it's Armenian or whether it's Greek or whether it's I don't know. I just see some of that stuff, that whole like cooking with fire and whole fish and those clay ovens and things like that. Like seeing refined versions of that. I've seen those pop up in places like DC and Chicago, and I could see that happening in Louisville.
Kind of going back to that, like
yes,
more raw type.
Exactly, more rustic cooking.
Right.
Yes. And, I think what's helped us too is that we've always had high-end ingredients, so to speak, but we've always been casual. And I think Americans love that. And people love that about American dining. It's like you don't have to dress up in a suit to go have an amazing meal with great ingredients. And ceviche kind of does that. We want people to be comfortable. You can come in jeans, you can come in shorts, but you can still have a beautiful wine. You can still have some beautiful food and not be all stuffy. There's something to be said for those places when you dress up. I like that. That fine dining, but I think people more just great food, but be casual and comfortable, not so stuffy. Because it could be intimidating sometimes. It's like you almost have to take a course on how to eat at those places. I'm a chef and I don't know how to eat at those places. Which fork do I pick up first? I don't know. So, but yeah, my friends. I'm into old vintage Volkswagens, and that's kind of my hobby now. I like to work on them, and it's kind of I call it my therapy. I can take a cruise and put some music on, and it takes me back to the 80s. But a lot of my Volkswagen friends will take cruises, and they're like, they first met me, they're like, he's a chef, and I'm like, all right, well, shoot, all right, let's go to Burger King real quick. Come on, let's go. And they're like, you're okay to eat in Burger King? I'm like, yeah, I eat to survive. I mean, I live to cook and I cook, but if I'm hungry, trust me, I'll go grab an avocado off the tree and a tortilla and go back to, so when I'm hungry, I can find anything. And I think that arrogant chef and TV kind of gave that bad impression where, not me. If I'm hungry, I'm going to find anything to eat. I'll go in my fridge. That's just how I grew up. So very simple, and I don't pick up my plates and smell them. And I see these people doing that and closing their eyes. I'm like, oh my goodness, just eat it. But
What do you think about all the cooking shows? Like I watch some of the cooking, and I feel like the good thing is that it's gotten probably more interested in it.
Yeah.
Because you're really seeing it kind of as an art form, and you're seeing it as a creative thing, and it's like reality TV or whatever. But I mean, more than ever, there's a lot of
like I said earlier, it's like good and bad. It shows the fun art of it, but then also can give a little bit of the wrong impression. They want to glamorize it, and it's still a very tough job. It's still a trade as much as it is an art. The art, I think, is not in everyone. Everybody can be great cooks and go to culinary school. I didn't train. I don't know where it came from. My mom fed me well and seasoned things well. I just let this do it. I taste and I cook and I use this. And that's what I did. And create that recipe, I write it down, and then my team follows it. But I never really, I guess it's like people that write music, as an artist and people paint. Well, I'm just, I'm writing recipes and creating food. So, my mom did cook every day, and I was exposed to a lot of different flavors as a young kid. And Jeff Tunks and chefs that I trained under said, Anthony, you have a really great palate. And I didn't have a dad growing up. I didn't know my father. So it was my mom and my 3 sisters. I was the oldest. I had to grow up really quick. So when I started to hear that, it felt really great because I never really had that person tell me that. So as a young cook, they said, you got a natural palate. And I'm like, really? And it started to build confidence in me. And then I was, they would have me make things and they're like, this is really good. And I'm like, I didn't read any recipes or books. I just kind of put it together and I just tasted it. And that's how I cook to this day. I don't read cookbooks.
You didn't go to culinary.
I didn't.
Oh,
I did an apprenticeship in San Diego. That's because Jeff Tunk said, learn some of the terminology. And at the time, SeaWorld had closed down and they used that location and they did an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is you have to work so many hours in different departments and then go to school 3 days a week. So we'd go learn the basics, but I also had to move around, and working at a resort, I got to do that. So I was very fortunate, and to this day, like I do music festivals for Danny Wimmer Presents, where we're cooking for 800 people. All that experience in starting off in a resort, doing weddings and things like that. I've been owning a restaurant, and then these opportunities came, and I was like, I know how to do this because I cooked for big parties. I did banquets. So again, it comes back. I didn't use that for a while. So I started making a name, and people approached me and said, we want you to do our wedding. Will you do this? Will you do that? It's opened up other doors. So, it was, again, like everything just kind of happened for a reason. But it's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed, and it looks like